morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for today's 30 by 30 Virtual Expo series. I quickly want to go over a few pieces of housekeeping before we get started. This meeting is being recorded, and we will post today's webinar and all the others in the series to our website at californianature.ca.gov. If you have any questions during today's webinar, please submit them through the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. The chat is also open for anyone who might be having technical issues or if you'd like to share different resources. However, we'll only be pulling questions from the Q&A section, so please submit them there. My name is Jason John, and I'm the Science and Policy Lead for Biodiversity and Habitat with the California Natural Resources Agency. Deputy Secretary Jennifer Norris is unable to attend today, but we have two amazing speakers lined up for you all, so she wanted us to keep it rolling. I work for Jennifer Norris on the state's 30 by 30 initiative, and I'm excited to be part of the 30 by 30 partnership with all of you joining today. 30 by 30 is an international movement focused on conserving 30% of all lands and waters by the year 2030. Here in California, we've committed to this goal and released the Pathways to 30 by 30 strategy earlier this year. You can learn more about this initiative by visiting our website, californianature.ca.gov, by downloading our Pathways to 30 by 30 strategy, or by watching the plenary session from our 30 by 30 partnership kickoff event in September. And links to both of these are going to be added into the chat. Now, the 30 by 30 partnership is a movement focused on reaching the 30 by 30 goal by working together, learning from one another, and supporting each other. On September 28th, we hosted an event to kick off the partnership at the California Natural Resources Agency. The event was filled to capacity, as you can see from these pictures, but we know that not everyone was able to join us in person. So we're hosting this virtual expo series to bring that experience to everyone throughout the state. As part of the event, we had a community expo to help make connections with over 20 different agency partners, funders, and technical assistance providers. We're here today to keep building on that momentum and the connections that we made in September by continuing to learn from each other and work together. The 30 by 30 partnership is really all about locally driven conservation, and we're here to share information about some of the resources available to support this partnership from agencies throughout California. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by David McNeil from the Baldwin Hills Conservancy and Larry Notais from the California Conservation Corps. David and Larry are going to share a brief introduction of their programs, funding, and other resources they had that are helpful for advancing 30 by 30. We'll then spend some time today addressing questions from you, our partners, who will help us to achieve 30 by 30 goal. Again, if you have any questions throughout this webinar, please submit them through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. When possible, my team will also try to answer some of the questions as they come in. And with that, I'm excited to hand over the virtual mic to David McNeil from the Baldwin Hills Conservancy.
Good morning. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Jason's going to handle my slides, which I see are coming up on the screen now. For some of those who are not familiar with the Baldwin Hills Conservancy, we're down here in Southern California, Los Angeles in particular. We have been recently renamed the Baldwin Hills and Urban Watershed Conservancy by legislation that was passed this year, which expands our territory. But I'd like to really point attention to this this graphic here, the screen that's going to have a picture of, essentially what was the territory or what Los Angeles looks like when it comes to urban open space. There's going to be a big distinction here. I mean, conservation is a very strong word and something that the Natural Resources Agency is committed to making inroads into significantly in California. But when you look at urban areas like Los Angeles, you see the sprawl, the freeways, the grid of houses and very little open space. And this area represents the last 2 square miles of open space in the Ballona Creek watershed. And you can see, if you look center of the picture, you'll see the urban land scarred with oil drilling. And so when you talk about open land or working lands or any available areas in urban areas, you're always talking generally about discarded land, brownfields, land that has not been nurtured, but has been used as mines or dumping grounds or landfills. And these are the areas that we're prioritizing in the urban 30 by 30 movement for our areas, because these are the last areas that are available for people to go to and to see the impacts of what would happen in their neighborhoods if 30 by 30 is realized. Next slide, please. So the Conservancy was created in 2000 and expanded in 2022. The mission has always been to acquire and develop and manage public lands in the Baldwin Hills area, to expand Kenneth Hahn State Recreation Area, a regional park that's in Los Angeles, and now the urban watersheds of Southwest LA County, Upper Dominguez Watershed, This involves restoring and protecting wildlife habitat, using opportunities for education and interpretation within those areas, basically creating stewards and experience on lands, public lands and recreation facilities that could serve the people where most people are. It was one of the first urban-centered conservancies started under natural resources. There are nine conservancies. When we were started in 2000, it was very innovative to go ahead and try and recapture and restore land in the heart of an African-American community historically, in one of the most densely populated regions in the US, understanding that Los Angeles is the second most dense city in the country. We partner with local governments. We work with other agencies, nonprofits, NGOs, communities, stakeholders, and really basically try and get the climate adaptation objectives of the state implemented at local area. Next slide, please. We have one program under several, which the most recently was funded under the general fund surplus that took place a year ago. And it reflects the priorities under 30 by 30, climate resiliency, wildfire prevention, community access, and resource protection. We have 4 categories that we made as priority: climate adaptation, access, restoration, and wildfire prevention, but all of them fall under the critical elements of 30 by 30, protecting biodiversity, expanding access to nature, mitigating and building resilience to climate change, as well as the core commitments to advance justice, equity, and diversity inclusion. All of those fall within the crossroads of the Baldwin Hills because of its center and communities of color, because of the environmental justice opportunities relative to dealing with brownfields, because of the opportunities to create stewards. 30 by 30 is an initiative that really folds nicely into the urban areas in LA County and the watersheds that I consider urban watersheds, where we have opportunities to make changes and really enhance what hasn't been enhanced before, and invest in areas and communities that will actually understand why this is a significant movement under the Newsom administration and how it impacts them in their lives in the future, their quality of life in the future. I understand that we have urban and we have rural, and both of them are priority. Certainly the significance of getting large swaths of land in Northern California and throughout the state that were formerly agricultural working lands is important, but certainly having the most impact and seeing people's opportunity to realize and actually experience the investments in their backyards, along their urban streets, on the way to the airport, or on the way to the beach, or on the way to their work, or on their bicycle. Those are the ideas that are promulgated in our Conservancy's statute, and those are the ideas that we believe align heavily with the goals of 30 by 30 in a way that can be very significant for the people of Los Angeles and Southern California, and California statewide in general. I've shared our grant information down at the bottom, the link. There's opportunities for funding at the local level, local assistance. And we will look forward to partnering with our friends online and for friends throughout the county to get the work done and implement these programs. Yeah, that'll be my overview for now, but I'm looking forward to hearing some questions from the public.
Thank you so much, David. It's incredible to hear about the work you're doing and helping to create and improve those green spaces in an area where there is so little. Definitely, for anyone, if you have any questions, please, once again, please submit them in the Q&As through that button at the bottom of your screen, and we'll looking forward to digging into those more at the end of this. Let's go ahead. I'll hand it over to Larry, if you'd like to share your screen.
Great. Thank you, Jason. Really appreciate it. Hopefully everyone can see my screen.
Looks great.
All right, great. Always difficult to follow David and all the amazing work he's doing down there in Baldwin Hills. I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and what an honor it is to present to you about the CCC, some of the things we do, and also talk a little bit about funding opportunities. So if you don't know about the CCC, you know, we're here to transform lives through protecting and enhancing California's environment. We were established in 1976 by then Governor Jerry Brown with his vision of a very unique vision of being a combination of a Jesuit seminary, Israeli kibbutz, and a Marine Corps boot camp. And over 4.5 decades later, we are the oldest and largest conservation corps in the country, and very proud of that, along with working and supporting many of the local nonprofit corps here in California. Our mission is on the screen, and it's really fundamentally rooted in the values of 30 by 30, is enhancing California's natural resources and communities, which I think is really important. We have we're a smaller department within the California Natural Resources Agency, and our budget there, something we're extremely proud of is the diversity, ethnic, racial, gender diversity within the CCC, as a model of what David talked about the principles around JEDI and the next generation of conservationists and community members. About 1,600 corps members spread around the entire state. We have worked in and do work in every single county of California. The blue locations are residential locations, and the green ones are non-residential locations. And there are some of the benefits that corps members receive through our program. 24% women, which is I'm very proud of, and we still have to do more with that. And corps members get paid for project training and classroom training. Some of the things that we do, and I'll talk a little bit more about funding, is for fuel reduction and fire response and protecting communities. And if you have projects that speak to fuel reduction, shaded fuel breaks, home safety, and hardening, we are open to look at that. Flood protection is very important in California, and we do a lot of work on that as well. Clearing flood channels, invasives, planting, improving bird corridors, riparian zones. We also have an Energy Corps program that helps reduce the load, whether it's audits, retrofits, solar, or charging stations. And again, we have funding for everything that I've shown so far. Forest health, dead and dying trees, tree mortality, planting, seed collection, as well as building trails in extremely remote areas, living in tents for 6 months in our backcountry trails program, and working to enhance access, and then trail building in state parks and national parks, city, county, a great access, ADA trail here being built, landscape creation and maintenance, again, removing invasives, bird corridors, many important landscape creation and maintenance projects, and then fisheries, wildlife habitat is also very, very important. So I think I have time, and I'm going to try to show a small video of a great project that embodies 30 for 30. Please let me know if you could hear it.
Area lived one with the environment. So getting back to this and getting back to the natural habitat, speaks volumes. And we're appreciative that, we have all of these partners here today. The CCC, right? It's in California Natural Resource Agency.
This is like a test project. They're going to do some research on the plants, mesquite and palo verde.
And all of them have different tags on them.
So they're testing in this site, and they're going to see how it grows throughout its life.
Which ones are growing and which ones aren't doing so good regarding the salt levels, because the land that we're on is full of salt.
And it's really cool because, like I said, it's going to be these specific trees that are native.
We're doing 1,782.
With all the trees, it's just a really beautiful project for the tribe.
Because they're trying for sustainability to feed the animals in the area and also people that are in tough times. If this survives, then the animals will do the rest for us.
The skid steer breaks it down, the hard soil, especially over there. The first time starting it was a bit weird, but then after like 100 holes, you get used to it.
1,700?
It's like those vending machines, like getting a toy. It's like that.
Then we have the rest of our corps members sort of finishing out that hole.
Getting 1 hole in, 2 holes in, keep on going till...
Apologize, I cannot close that. I apologize. The last part was my email and direct number. I will put that into the chat. But I also want to talk about the funding. The funding we have through GGRF, our new nature-based, our Tribal Youth Nature-Based Solutions Conservation Corps program, Prop 68, SB 901. But just to reiterate that all of those slides that I showed you about what we do, the CCC currently has funding to help support those projects that encompass 30 by 30 locally, rurally, urban areas, supporting nonprofits or other entities to do their work projects with our labor. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Jason.
Well, thank you so much, Larry, and thank you for sharing that video. David, if you'd like to join, and actually, Larry, if you'd like to go ahead and stay on camera, how about we'll go ahead and dig into some of these questions. These are incredible programs. Like we were saying earlier, 30 by 30 really is all about locally driven conservation and finding ways both to connect with these natural spaces and help both the community and natural spaces across the state. We have one question about connectivity. David, I saw that you answered it. I was wondering if you'd like to expand a little bit on how the work that you're doing can, whether it's the watersheds or you spoke about Biona Creek, how the work that you're doing can work or can increase connectivity and make a difference there.
Yeah, we're stuck. LA didn't plan the way it should have planned in terms of addressing open space. Right? If we'd stuck with the Olmsted plan, there'd be corridors and greenways throughout Los Angeles County. But we've got what we've got, and it is a lot of disparate open space that we try and reconnect. Everybody talks about emerald necklaces and series of parks. In Baldwin Hills, we've succeeded in doing Park to Playa, which connects the Baldwin Hills 2 square mile area along the Biona Creek, which to most people in rural areas looks like a channel, but it is a creek that's been created by the Army Corps of Engineers. It's much like the LA River, and it is an opportunity for greening and a wildlife corridor. You do see migratory birds fly along it, and there is habitat along some parts of it, and it leads out to the wetlands and out to the ocean. So that's the first regional connection we've ever done in the area. One of a kind regional trail that connects the parklands to the ocean, which was a dream, 20 years ago that we've seen come to truth. That's a small example. There's Rail to River, which is another example of trying to connect the LA River through a long corridor along Slauson, which is an abandoned rail line that had a lot of issues with it. You can see these rail lines have a lot of toxins and dumping and issues that historically. So you'll see that corridor established from LA River all the way to Inglewood and up to the Baldwin Hills if we can have it our way through the new territory in the urban areas. So we're kind of stuck trying to connect the dots with open space corridors. I'm even looking at cemeteries, to be completely honest, as open space, and not really public lands, but they're definitely open and they do have connectivity. So the idea of trying to rebuild LA in a puzzle pieces that can create a little more breathing room, a little more tree canopy, a little more climate resiliency, and readapt a lot of these parkways to deal with capturing water and to deal with capturing carbon and to address heat island effect. That's the opportunity we have in urban areas, which is completely different than what you see in the rural areas, but in my mind, significantly important to continued funding and efforts to get this job done.
Absolutely. It's such an incredible link between all the different states' priorities and bringing it together when it's with our natural, our developed communities and finding ways to it's incredible the work that you're doing and finding those ways to connect everything together like that. Speaking of some of the state's priorities, we've been getting a lot of questions about the Tribal Conservation Corps. And Larry, I was wondering if you could expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so we have been given the honor through nature-based solutions to support, empower, help tribal nations in any way to start youth conservation corps programs. And so this will be tribal administered, tribal led, tribal supervised, working with tribal youth on tribal land and working on tribal identified nature-based solutions. And so we are currently working with Geneva at a CNRA and doing early and often and meaningful consultations with tribes, whether government to government, singularly or as roundtables as well. And so this will be to develop a fire crew that works on cultural burning or prescribed burns, or having a core program that works on sustainable and culturally important agriculture to teach youth and to work with the nation and on the nation. So really, really excited about that. And please reach out directly to me. I put my information in the chat if you want to talk more about that. And I did see, Jason, one question from Christopher about who we work with, and whether it's the federal government, parks, Forest Service, down to the smallest, most important local nonprofit. So usually government entities or NGOs, resource conservation districts, we can contract with and provide service labor to those entities or organizations. For profit, we don't work with a lot, but for some extremely important environmental projects, if there's a benefit in DFW and parks, we have done that type of work, but mostly it's with the city, county, state nonprofit entities.
No, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Bringing together partners like that and community members, it's the only way 30 by 30 will really succeed, and that's incredible. Speaking of that, David, for people in your community who, whether they're looking at getting engaged with some of the work that you're already doing or want to get more information on a project that they would like to ramp up, what would you recommend as far as the best way for them to connect with you and your team, to connect with the work that you're doing?
Well, on the grantee side, in the grant side, we do grant workshops, I think once or twice a quarter. We got to do our schedule for the coming year. And a lot of those workshops are capacity building. They're webinars. I'd love to do them live again. I think we might be heading in that direction in terms of doing them live these days. But we do them online, and we've had good attendance, and we try and give people the tools, because capacity building for a lot of the NGOs and nonprofits and the local municipalities, as small as they might be, they don't have the experience applying for, state or federal funds. And we allow them to come in with ideas, and we share our information, which parallels the rest of the state's information in terms of conservation, in terms of conservancies. They can look at the same guidelines for the funding and basically hit all those eligibility requirements in a conversation with us, even though we're not able to fund some of the areas because they might be outside of our territory. So we are kind of a school of sorts, that has regular meetings online. If you go to our website, there's always a flyer that says the next workshop is coming up. I think, of course, you look now, probably the last one that just passed in October, but we'll be posting the ones for the next quarter very shortly. We're also doing a lot of work in schools. A lot of this ties into what Larry's work has done, and they sees and the model that they have working with at-risk youth and bringing a new pipeline of a generation of stewards into the world. We've tried to take it to the next level by partnering with our local community college and a group called Nature Network Institute, doing a lot of work with stewardship from the level elementary, middle school, high school, and into the junior college level. And that's been a good dialogue opportunity. If you go to their classes and you see postings in their schools for sign up for spring conservation studies, which goes across the board, not just for youth, but adults can sign up. It's an adult class as well. We're trying to get a bigger audience. So, those are the ways we're trying to do the work. Getting the message out is always difficult. I don't know, we're competing with the noise of social media. I'm not doing TikTok dances on this, so I'm not getting a million likes, but we're trying to break through the noise and make sure people know our funding is available in all the traditional ways. And if we get a press article or a conversation on NPR, or even this kind of a platform, we're hoping that this is an opportunity for people to hear about what we're doing.
And that's amazing. And just kind of getting that information out there, like you said, it's such a challenge, but working with people throughout that educational process and getting them exposed to it and getting them a part of the work early on, that's incredible. You mentioned Larry. Larry, do you have other programs as well, along with the Conservation Corps, opportunities for people to be engaged, whether it is through the educational side or policy or some of the other work around conservation?
Oh, great question. Thank you. Yeah, we've recently started enhancing our intern program. And so currently we have a intern at CNRA working on Jedi issues with Moises. But we also have a legal intern Corps member who's working with our lead counsel. And so we are always to look to support nonprofits, local entities. If they have someone that is interested in 30 to 30 and wants to work on that and help with capacity, we have amazing Corps members that have the experience, the desire, the work ethic to potentially join an organization and help support their mission around 3030. And so if anyone is interested in that, please do not hesitate to reach out and see if we could establish something like that with your program or department.
Thank you so much. And I think we're running out of time now, so I'm going to go ahead and put up some of the contact information from both of your organizations, but thank you both so much for joining us. I know we keep saying that 30 by 30 is locally driven, but at the end of the day, the work that both of you and your organizations and your teams are doing really is the core of 30 by 30 and getting people engaged. So thank you both so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you all for joining and watching our 30 by 30 virtual expo series and for all of your questions. If you do have questions about the resources or programs we talked about, please reach out through the contact info here. The video will also be posted online at californianature.ca.gov. And for the questions we did not get to, we're also working on an updated frequently asked questions on the California Nature website and hope that the information will be helpful when it's posted. Before we get to, we also have the last two. David or Larry, do either of you have any last things you'd like to share with the
I want to say thank you, Jason, for hosting. We should get to see Jen. It's great to be a part of this movement. It's great to have an aggressive administration making headway here and working with all the partners at the Natural Resource Agency and our partners here in LA County and the community to get these things done.
Yeah, everything that David just said. And, you know, we're here to support your missions and your work. And so thanks, Jason, for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you both so much. This has been incredible. We have two more webinars coming up on November 29th and December 1st as we wrap up the 30 by 30 virtual expo. Thank you both, David and Larry, again so much for being here today and for all the work you and your teams are doing. I hope to see everyone here who's joined us again on November 29th. And until then, you all take care. Thank you.